Good afternoon. You're welcome to Elections Debrief. Today we'll continue our conversation about the last elections. And today with me we have three stakeholders who were part of the elections who have different experiences and lessons from the just concluded elections to share with us. Today we have Dr. Joshua Adeoye. He is Director Operations for the Take It Back movement and Acting National Secretary for the African Action Congress. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next to him we have Mr. Hassan Soweto. He is the National Coordinator for Education Rights Campaign, and he was also a candidate under the Socialist Party of Nigeria. He ran for the State House of Assembly elections for E4 Constituency 2. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, next to him is Mr. Sanmi Falobi. He is the Programs Manager for the International Press Center, Nigeria. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll start with you, Mr. Falobi. You work with the International Press Center, and you had a lot of programs going towards the election. So how effective were all these mechanisms you put in place during the election?
Basically, our intervention was to use the media to affect the electoral process. That is, equipping the media to perform the roles they are expected to do. Media is central to development, is central to democracy, is central to a lot of other things. So what we're doing was working with media organizations, journalists, editors, associations and institutions on performing their different roles as media, reporting, citizens, information gathering, information disseminations, and how they could do that in a more professional way. Because from the precedents, media has already been a central, pretty central role in elections. If the media reports negatively or badly, to put it, it's going to have some effects. If also the media reports positively or professionally, if you put it that way, it's going to also have some positive effects.
All right, so how would you rate how effective were these interventions, judging by the outcome of the election?
Yes, you asked.
How would you rate it?
Yeah, you asked me to judge myself. Of course, I will judge myself very well, but practically, there has been an improvement from the past election. You see that there are not so many issues the way we had in the last elections. We have seen the media that's more professional. The media that is more, even though they have issues with ownership, issues of interference, issues of editorial policies, but the media was still able to overcome those challenges and report as it could professionally as possible. We have issues of fake news to deal with. We have issues of biases. We have issues of facts, checking of facts. But we see that over this period of the electoral process, the media is going to live above board. There are minimal incidents, even though we know that there are some political parties that have allegiance to some people. We could still see that they try to strike a balance. And for us, that is credit to what we have done and to what other organizations that are working with us. I'll
move on to you, Mr. Soweto. How was the experience for you?
Well, first thing I would say is that I'm Comrade Soweto, and I make that point because there has been no break, actually, in my political development.
Okay.
Because actually there's no difference, between being an activist and being a candidate. We have often described ourselves as political activists, as revolutionaries.
Okay.
And our objective is to change society.
Okay.
And we can either do that at the barricade, or we equally stand elections for the purpose of presenting our ideas and programs to the people.
Okay.
So that being a candidate is, to me, a natural progression, of that background. And if you look at our campaign, we were not saying that I wanted to go to the assembly.
Okay.
Just to go and sit down there and obey parliamentary niceties. No, we announced ourselves as political activists who have been at the barricade defending the right of ordinary Nigerians and the workers. And I want to go into the assembly to go and take the battle to the government on all of the issues of underdevelopment, lack of opportunities, that is afflicting that region of Ogun State. But if you ask me, I will say that one very important lesson that we gained from that intervention in the election through the Socialist Party of Nigeria, SPN, is that the working people, the youth and ordinary Nigerians have given up on these crooks who call themselves capitalist politicians, and they are desirous of an alternative. This may sound contradictory anyway, given the fact that
there was no voters.
I contested, others contested in that election who could be seen as an alternative, and yet they did not win in the coming.
All right, comrade. I'll still come back to you on that. I'll come to Dr. Adeoye now. So, AAC participated in the election for the first time as a new party, and then was still able to pull its weight with the riding on the, of course, the credibility of its frontrunner, flag bearer, Momoyele Sowore. So what were the experiences for you being at the center of it all, the planning, and then what happened during the election?
Thank you for your question. Yeah. And I must commend my co-panelists for some quite insightful statements so far. So I will comment on the experience of the African Action Congress from the perspective of someone who was one of the founder members of the Take It Back movement, from which the African Action Congress eventually was formed. Yeah. So the Take It Back movement, which we are proud of now as the fastest growing socio-political movement in Africa, started around one or two central themes, which was one, that one of the cardinal banes of our politics in Nigeria is godfatherism in politics. And that godfatherism in politics is fueled by the inordinate effect of money in Nigerian politics. So the question was, how is it that we can counter this effect of money? And keep in mind, when you are countering money that comes from illicit wealth, that is humongous amounts of money. And of course, the people who wield this money, or the power that comes from this money, are these godfathers that we're talking about. And it's you can see it being pushed in the narrative. Oh, elections are expensive. Oh, some people even put a price to it, which is, oh, if you don't have 1 billion naira in your account, that you don't have anything you are doing with, you can't run for president. Or if you don't have 500 million in your account that you are not doing anything with, you can't run for Senate. And in fact, governor, some people, they actually have prices that they have attached to it. So this was something that we came out to tackle. So we came into the political process not really to, build a political vehicle or a platform like AAC and say, oh, we're just targeting the positions themselves. It was more about targeting this thinking behind where our politics has gotten us to now, which is in this vicious cycle of underdevelopment, of hopelessness, of sometimes even throwing away our better alternatives on the altar of pragmatism. We see viable candidates or alternatives and say, can they win? And then go back and pick the same people that have brought us to where it is that we are. And so my experiences, I would say, were almost all positive, because I would say that all our experiences showed that all these myths were just that. They were myths, they were fables, and we proved them wrong.
So I'll come back to you, Mr. Falobi. So let's talk about the fate of smaller parties. smaller parties, outside the popular ones that everybody knows, what was the fate of these smaller parties in this last election, using this election as a talking point?
For the smaller parties, I agree with what they've said also, that there was a learning experience. You know, the smaller parties are going to grow if you don't get out of the game. Even though they're smaller parties, the experience will help them going forward if they still remain in the race. The media is always available.
Okay.
We did a media monitoring report. We also saw that many of the smaller parties, so-called, did not use the media. There would be a lot of other issues associated, but our monitoring showed that the two main parties and a few others had more media reportage, and we were asking what happened. Was it that journalists did not come to the event, or they didn't invite journalists, or they didn't think it was necessary to have journalists come to these events? Those are the learning curves we look at to say, okay, where have I done good enough? What can I do to be better? But I also say that the media is always available for everybody. So for them, they've seen the stuff, they've learned one or few things. You advise them that they should keep up in the game, go back, re-strategize, use all communication means. The social media is there for them. Their Twitter handle should not go down now. They have been shouting, they have been tweeting, the Facebook posts should not go, they should just still engage the process. We all, but we should engage the process going forward.
On the vote buying, what should smaller parties start doing from the experience of this last election now? It's still generally about the fate of the smaller parties now. So we've identified votes buying as a major issue. So what should the smaller parties be doing?
Like I always tell party members, you can never beat the capitalist politicians at their game. And I'm happy that my brother mentioned that the resources to buy votes are often from illicit wealth, which is bottomless. It can, so if we then say that the only way to compete with them is also to go and raise money to begin to buy vote or do, what do they call it again? Project in communities and distribute exercise books, it will not work. For us in Socialist Party of Nigeria, ultimately it's about raising the consciousness of the people. Because what we have realized is that if the people are prepared and they see the way, well, there's a difference between people are angry and then they see clearly that is the way out and they try to seize it. People have always been angry, and we have seen what is happening in Sudan and Nigeria today. These are dictatorships that have been there for decades. People didn't agree with them, but in any case, they also didn't see a way out. But when they saw the way out, they seized the opportunity. That's also why it's going to be for us in Nigeria.
All right, coming to you, Dr. Joshua, now. Still on the fate of small parties. Now, you mentioned that you wanted to break the myth and all of that. So, obviously, you've been able to demystify the fact that you don't need a godfather to actually run for presidency. But you still need to rely on the people. But during the last election, there was still large cases of voter apathy and all of that. So how do you get the people to be involved in the process?
So I have this equation in my head about what it takes or what determines voter turnout at an election. And it's based on 3 or 4 things. 1, what happened at the last election. 2, the quality of the candidates and the mix in this election. 3, the cost benefit of what it is that they are going to go and do at the election. Okay. And maybe for the dangers that attached to that process. Now, of course, each and every one of these major fields has the different things that affect them. But if you look at all of this with relation to 2019 elections, it's then easily explained why it is that there were, well, let's say, not too impressive turnout of the voters, even for, in quotes, what you are calling the smaller parties. And with that, I want to comment on something that my co-panelist from the press corps said. The truth is that, and we must be straight about it, many, I don't want to use most, but many of the journalists in Nigeria have no clue about the ethics of journalism in Nigeria. And so writing words that are non-binding, even though they have the spirit of ethics behind them, they would easily just be jettisoned by some of these journalists when they are implementing or prosecuting those circumstances or scenarios. And I can say this because I was involved in half of the negotiations or the interactions or the engagements that involve the press with the Take It Back movement as well as the African Action Congress. And this is coming from the background of somebody who was behind a candidate that is a press mogul. It was obvious that the bias was there. It was obvious that half of the bias was monetary. It was obvious that some people could not go against owners' wishes, especially when those owners were partisan. And it was obvious that many of those journalists were only in that profession, or only in the profession to advance either the cause of their pockets or their profile. And so they were not willing to do anything that seemed like it was going to go against that. There are many instances that I can provide.
Can you share any one of these with us?
Okay, but I'm sure my colleague here, for example, knows what is called the communiqua, and the which is the very funny name for the brown envelope that seems to change hands either before or after, yes, an event. There was a particular situation in which we had even finished the particular event and everything, and then the guy told me, please, I want, where is our communique? That the communique cannot be released without the communique. And I asked him, I had already known what communique was, but you know, just to keep up appearances, please, what is this communique? I said, okay, it's that brown envelope. And then he went directly to my footage and said, okay, can you see the communique is being deleted because there is no communique.
All right, I think I'll come back to you on the lessons. Let me just take Mr. Soweto. So, what are your general impression on the elections proper?
Like I said earlier, there were no surprises. And why? Because I'm a socialist. What that means is that I do not even consider this democracy a genuine democracy. It's a make-believe arrangement of voting every 4 years to give the impression that things are changed when they really are not. You know, but contesting the election was necessary in order to begin to build a political alternative which can provide for the people a rallying point, a reference point, you know, for transformation. Because don't forget that in 2012, January, something happened. Nigerians, the working people, rose up in unison protesting against a policy of government which they found to be anti-poor. But the dynamics of the movement was so that within a matter of days, there was a general mood rising for an end to that government. And that's to tell you that change or transformation, it's not just something that has to come through the prescribed process of casting our ballot. You know, you could also have movement developing on the streets that imposes the will of the people. But at that period, there was something very missing, which was that there was no clarity as to how to proceed, what replaces. And this problem is also the kind of problem you find in the movement that you have in the Middle East and North Africa since 2011. People are rising up to change decade-long dictatorship, but with no clarity as to what replaces. Why we formed our party is to begin to correct that problem and provide a rallying point. And I think that we succeeded at doing that, because in it for local government, it's not even the entire local government that we contested, I hope you know. if 4.22 is just a portion of the entire territory from local government. We started the party with less than 20 members in the street. Through the process of the campaign, we have grown to nearly 100 members with 1,400 contacts on paper that we are now going about to see how we can start fixing them, organizing them in different areas. We're able to open about 7 different branches of the party during the course of the campaign. We're trying to consolidate on that. When you look at that kind of outcome, it shows that we have actually improved our position, which we can utilize very well over the next 4 years to act as a rally point for people, voicing out and speaking.
Thank you. Let me come to you, Mr. Falobi. So just what were your general impression about this election?
General impression, first, some perceptions. I did not work for a Nigerian journalist. At International Press Center, we work for development.
Yeah.
We work with journalists for development. So I'm not here to defend
journalism.
But if there are facts or we state them as we have seen them. So that, as it is, the media itself has its own problem. We all know. That's why we're working with them, just like the society has its own problem. Of course, I cannot defend that there are fake journalists, just as there are fake doctors, there are fake lawyers, and there are fake whatever. So we're not on this table to say this about that. And so that's about my panel that raised some issues. I didn't want to respond because that's not the issue over here, but there are issues everywhere, but we just try to see what can be done. And that's why I said this is what we have as a document to hold journalists. Of course, not everybody will comply, but this is what we have for now. And it's a step to getting better. If you disregard this, then we're going back worse than we are. So it's a process of our development. The engagement that you have done is, for the fact that you complain, petitions to INEC, is a step. That's in their records, even though they jettisoned it, but this is their records. So next time they're more careful. Those are the kind of things we're asking people to do. So if there are outlets, if there are opportunities to make a protest or take some actions, do it to the extent that you can. Whether it goes through or not is another.
Within the ambits of the law.
You've done something, somebody will pick it up from there, and we make the society better. No one organization has the power to change society. Even not the ruling party, they cannot all change it. So we all have to work together. If they are doing good, we ask them to do better. And when there are gaps, we point out the gaps, and that's how development happens. So for the elections, we have seen, just like I said, the small parties, so-called, they didn't use the media. So also that the media did also report women. We have issues with youths. So it's not all about the small party. There are issues with the media and the youth. And as I said, these are the things that came up. I was trying to find what went wrong. Is it that they didn't use the media, or the people did not come to the media? So it's both ways. The media may be there, they may not use the media, and the people may not be also able to come to where the engagement with youth, where they with women politicians, and these are the things that are coming out of women politicians. Why are you not using the media? And there are issues, we have trainings for candidates, female candidates, to help them understand how the media works. And for what we have said, maybe we also have training or interactions with these new parties, to also understand how the media works. Some of these are about perceptions. We may think this is how we think it should be done, but in practical, in reality, it may not be the way. So we need to understand the truth side of the coin, and use the one I would think holds the key to what you want to open there. So sometimes it's about friendship, it's about cultivation. It's not about money. Sometimes it's not about money. It's about friendship, it's about cultivation, it's about the way you go about the strategy you use to get what you want. So for the elections, all hands should still be on deck.
You actually answered the next questions for me. So okay. I'll come to you now. So it goes back. So what are the lessons for you, and what is the next step for you as a candidate, for you as an individual, for you as a representative of the Socialist Party of Nigeria?
Well, I saw immense anger and an immense desire for transformation during the campaign. Okay. We also saw the limitations.
What were these limitations?
Which is that our party is still at stand at a stage of infancy. Because even on the day of the election, we couldn't man up polling unit. We didn't, for the party, we couldn't have the different departments to handle different areas, so that we had a situation where individuals were combining different tasks. There was also political inexperience. So that going forward, I see the next 3-4 years as an opportunity to address all of those limitations, because the echo that we got through that campaign shows that perhaps if we had a much more developed party that had structures everywhere, then perhaps the outcome would have been greater.
Okay.
You know, so the work of building is what matters now. And in building, it's not just putting on physical structures. It's also political education. People have to be confident that this is the only way. And what is that way? It's the way of revolution. It is that we don't want to change society throughout, total transformation. We are not just doing it because we want to put somebody in a position. Because that is really how these so-called major political parties are built around the ambition of individuals. But I think this is about us standing up for ourselves and building this vehicle, to take over political power. That is very hard to do, because we are changing people's perception. We are doing a re-engineering of minds. That's what we call political conscientization. But once that process is concluded, then the result is that people on their own will be the one who will rise up en masse, to make the change that needs to be done.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. So this is what I usually round up with on the program. I'll start with you, Mr. Falobi. If you were going to rate INEC in the last election, what would you score INEC over 100?
Well, those have to be issue of comparison, because you cannot rate in isolations. You have to know what are the factors. We work with INEC also, so there's some other information we have that is not public knowledge. So my rating will be subjective, because we also had this we're working on an EU project for INEC, and INEC is also part of that project. I also work with other organizations. So my rating will not be objective, because I also have some information from their own end why there are issues. But the central point is that there's always room for improvement. They have issues of communication, they have issues they also have their own area of control of some factors that beyond their own purview. But generally, I would say there's always room for improvement. They also know they have not done very well. They know where they are falling based on those factors they've told us, and they know how they could avoid that. So let's all of us look at our areas of improvement. We're all working towards a better country. Let that be our core drive. Let us do what we can do. Let everybody do what they can do to improve. The challenges will always be there. We cannot run away from that. There will be challenges, but let's see. For example, one pinpoint for them, that communication aspect, it came as a big issue for them. Whatever factors were involved, they could have communicated more effectively. So for INEC, if I want to make one statement, let them look at that communication. They are the referee of this game. So you don't give, when you should blow once, you don't blow 2 times, you get people confused. So they should look at that internal communication. We all support them. They will have another name, they will have another person. Once INEC is the best that's regulatory agency, so let them open their doors and let's look at communication aspect. All the parties involved, we know their challenges, but let their communication be more effective, and then who can accept them better? If it's credible, it's to the credibility of INEC. If it also fails, it's also So the discreditability, you know, use that word, so the discredit of INEC. So they have much more to do if it's seen, if it's perceived as being credible. So to do that, they need to carry along all stakeholders with an open communication.
But I still want you to to still rate them based on what you know.
I rate them based on what they say they wanted to do.
Okay, over 100.
Over 100, yeah. They told us they're going to deliver credible elections.
But they did not.
I rate them 60.
Okay.
Because that was their own benchmark. But there were some failures, so those failures, the minus of 40 for them, I rate them 60.
Okay. Comrade Soweto.
You want me to rate them?
Yes. Just put a figure over 100.
Honestly, if... but of course, one has to be objective, even in the situation where being objective is impossible. But I have to say something. Well, I think that they failed miserably, and anybody who has 20 marks over 100 would have to repeat the exercise, right?
Okay.
So I think they can have up to 20 over 100 in terms of because given the enormous resources, given the long period to plan, that was a very terrible waste of public resources. There's no reason if we have, you know, we are in a Senate climb where one or two people should not be held responsible for the kind of terrible outcome we saw in that election.
All right. So, Dr. Adeoye, I know we should expect a bombshell, but
if we look at it organizationally, there's a process of election. There's an ideology, thinking behind elections. For example, did INEC do well when it came to transmission of materials to where they should be? When it came to securing those materials in those places? When it came to transmitting the results soon after the elections were completed? I think not. The thinking behind elections are that people should be able to choose, isolated from other people influencing their ability to choose. I think the process was set up in such a way that people could be influenced. I did not see over the last 4 years INEC take any steps whatsoever to make it easy for people to vote without being influenced, either being stamped out or being directed where they should go. They keep hiding behind, oh, the constitution says this, oh, the constitution says this. But it's just like a child that wants to steal a meat from their mother's pot. That your mother said don't steal the meat does not stop you from finding creative ways to get to that pot, even if it means staying awake when your mother is asleep. Now apply that if you want to do something positively. In that respect, did they do well? No. And so if I put these two together, definitely it's a fail score. If I have to add a number, characterize this failure, I may not be so drastic as to give them a 20, because I believe you cannot remove INEC from two things. One, the society that they are doing the elections for, as well as the government that they are reporting to while arranging these elections. And so I'll just give them the same score that I've given this dispensation, which is 33%, 1/3 of whatever it is that we expected. They are nowhere near good enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. It's been a very interesting episode. Thank you very much. The conversation continues on the 2019 elections. Do join us next week for another edition. Thank you.